Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joshua Jones here with Good Luck, Have Fun, Magic the Gathering on YouTube. Reminding you to subscribe, hit the bell, share, comment, and like these videos so we can get them out to more folks. And yeah, with that being said, today we're going to be doing the 32 of 32 series where we break down one deck in all 32 different color combinations. Today's color being black. So, Ravnica Allegiance is coming up, and the Buy a Box promotional card was released. So today we're going to be doing a Commander Starter deck on that. Commander Starter deck to me is just no card over $2. In fact, there's only 4 cards in this deck that are over $1. And a 6 CMC max. No particular reason why the CMC max. I just think it's, lower end on the curve, so less to worry about with getting in trouble with your mana base and all that. Technically never to return 7 CMC, but the split card thingy, the way it works out is the total of both sides equals the CMC. You get my point here. Hey, it's the Haunt of Hightower. This card was released as the Buy a Box promo for Ravnica Allegiance, and I'm calling this deck Did You Need Those Discards? Question mark. The Haunt of Hightower is 4 double black for a 3/3 flying lifelink legendary creature vampire that says whenever the Haunt of Hightower attacks, defending player discards a card. Whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put a 1/1 counter on the Haunt of Hightower. So, because of the ability where a card goes into the graveyard from anywhere, we're going to be trying to have our opponents discard a lot of cards and mill a lot of cards to get the counters on this guy or vampire, high enough where we can win with commander damage primarily. That's a lot of words, but let's get into it. Starting off with the foundation of the deck, we have the ramp cards. Wayfarer's Bauble, Charcoal Diamond, and Mind Stone for a little bit of rampage. Then we got Bantu's Monument, Worn Power Stone, and Commander's Fear. Worn Power Stone's what I call slow ring, but what can you do for under 2? Bantu's Monument is not technically ramp, but it's more than ramp in this deck because all black creatures are going to be costing you 1 less. There's 15 black creatures in the deck, so essentially you're going to get a total reduction of about 15 there. That math works. Plus gaining a life and losing a life, or what we like to call drain, whenever you cast a creature spell. That's also nice. Moving on, we have Everflowing Chalice, which you can cast for 0 if you just want to do absolutely nothing, or 2 or 4 or 6 mana because of the multi-kicker, or more and more, however much you want. And there you go, we got a little ramp dealio there. Hedron Archive, letting you draw cards later on, and of course Dark Ritual, just to be able to get your commander out a little bit earlier, but just a one-off effect there. As far as the foundation, we have removal spells, so we're running Tragic Slip because the negative gets around any kind of indestructible shenanigans. We're running cards like Plaguecrafter and Eldest Reborn to have our opponents sacrifice creatures or planeswalkers. In the case of the Eldest Reborn, the discard effect plays real well into our main theme, and also we get something back after that third saga situation goes off. And it's important to note that that's from a graveyard, as we will also see here on Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Never to return and Ruinous Path. Just ways to deal with creatures or planeswalkers while also giving us some other minute advantage there. As far as moving on to kind of sweeper effects, we have Nihil Spellbomb to get rid of graveyard problems, Languish, Mutilate to do some negative board wiping, and Phyrexian Scriptures just to kind of save our one commander creature primarily, then destroy everything else, and then also some graveyard help there as well. Moving on to the refill, we're trying to get cards back in our hands, so we kind of want to do that with playing with the main theme of having others discard. So we're running cards like Asylum Visitor, which is going to ping us for 1 life whenever any upkeep happens and that player doesn't have a card in hand. We get a draw and lose a life. Siphon Mind, which allows us to have each other player discard a card and then draw a card for each one discarded. And then whenever a player discards an opponent, not yourself, discards a card, you get to go ahead and draw a card with Guess Grimoire. Don't know how to say that. All right. Then we have Chaos Wand, which isn't exactly card draw, but it does allow you to play things from your opponent's deck. So what's worse than milling them and making them discard than getting to play their cards, right? So give us some reach there with hard to deal with permanents, maybe, but it's all kind of like a luck of the draw there. Seer Sundial and Staff of Nin rounding it out for card draw for us. Oh, no, it's not, because here's Sign of Blood, Reed Bones, and Night's Whispers along with Underworld Connections. So just some more lose life, draw cards type of effects, incremental draw, because all these are just like 2 cards, and then with the Underworld Connections, basically it takes away one of our lands there. Okay, that's it for real on the reveal cards. Let's move on. For our game plan, we are trying to have people discard. So these 3 cards right here, just 3 creatures that, when they come in or they have upkeep or some kind of trigger to them that makes each player discard a card. So that's us and everyone else in the game. Then we have these cards that have target player discard a card. The best one being Raven's Crime here, which has Retrace, which means that we can play it from our graveyard by discarding a land from our hand. So if we have any extra lands that we don't need to play, we could just go ahead and play this and have one player discard a card. All right, cool. Here we got Blood Husk Ritualist, Houndoom of Night's Reach, probably just better I stop reading cards, Ravenous Rats. All these have target opponent discard cards. So we see the multi-kicker mechanic again here as we did earlier with the Everflowing Chalice. Alright, wrapping it up, we have Liliana Spectre and Nunnerve, which has ETB discard, and each opponent discards 2 cards. So these are our each opponent discard outlets here. Moving on, we have the Graveyard Plan. So that's just some mill type of effects. So in the case of the Centaurs, whenever it ETBs, we have target player put the top 4 into their graveyard. With the Spy, we have the ETB target player reveals until they hit a land and then bends those cards. The Trepanation Blade is going to pump up our commander by +1 or any other creature we equip it to, but preferably our commander, and then they're going to have to go ahead and put the revealed cards into their graveyard after revealing until they hit a land. And then the Mind Crank whenever an opponent loses life. So that's from us or anybody else. They're going to have to mill. Continuing on with the mill plan, we have the pay a certain amount of X and tap these artifacts to have target player put the top X cards into their graveyard. Then we have Codex Shredder, Decimator Web, and Millstone, which is just pay some mana and tap it to have the cards go into the graveyard. In the case of Codex Shredder, what's really nice about that is it only costs 1 mana, and you could start getting your mill plan on right away because it's going to mill 1 card every turn. Not a bad deal for a new beginner type budget friendly deck. Then we're having all this discard go on. So what's the advantage? So we're going to run a damage package with Raider's Wake, Fell Spectre, and Megrim. Megrim? Yeah, alright. All of these are going to have our opponents lose 2 life whenever some discard action is going down. Next up, in the damage category of our game plan, we're going to have Descent, Nihilstone, and Affliction, which all is going to have people either discard more cards or lose life as they're discarding cards. The quest here is pretty excellent because it's going to be able to get to the 2 or more quest counters in no time, and then players losing 5 life, pretty much a good little deal on their upkeep. It's going to run the game out pretty quick in your favor. Moving on to the utility package, we're running Loyal Subordinate and Gary here. And the main reason I'm running Loyal Subordinate is because I wanted to sneak in a Lieutenant card into the deck. Not that great of a card, but each opponent losing 3 life at the beginning of your combats, it's something in the Lieutenant Mechanic. Like I said, I wanted to sneak it in there. As far as Gary goes, we're running a mono black deck, and your devotion's going to be pretty dang good most of the time when this guy ETBs. So that loss of life and then gaining the life lost that way with Gary is nothing to sniffle at or what have you. Next up, we have the Treasure Life. So Syngromancer here, and whenever opponent has a creature that dies, you're going to go ahead and get 3 life, and then whenever an opponent discards a card that's the primary one, you're going to go ahead and gain 3 life. We're running a lot of cards that whenever we draw, we lose life and such. So it's nice to have this little life gain. Although our commander does have life link, just to make sure that we don't kill ourselves, And then Revel in Riches here is an alternate win condition, just getting you some treasure. If you have an opponent's creature that dies, you get that treasure, and it's just kind of nice. And then maybe you win with it. Moving on to the protection suite, we're running Mask of Avacyn, Swiftfoot Boots for a little bit of hexproof, and then Whisper Silk Cloak here to help us get in with our commander unblockable to go ahead and close out games. Finally, the landing. I'm keeping it simple. We're just running basics, 36 swamps. You could put a Rogue's Passage in here. You could put a few other things in here if you want to, just run it out there. But just because this is a starter deck, I just wanted to run 36 swamps in this deck. Alright, next up, let's talk about the Challenge Achievement Trophy for this deck like we always do. So starting it off with the challenge, I'm calling this the Look at Me, Josh Lee. Josh Lee Kwai over on the Command Zone, a great podcast. If you haven't went over there and checked that out, please go on and do that. They're great folks over there with the Command team. But if you know the podcast at all, Josh Lee Kwai does not think you can win by commander damage. I'm just kind of punted it out by calling the challenge for this deck Look at Me, Josh Lee. In a 4-player game, just one game, get a commander damage victory using the Haunt of Hightower. Moving on to the achievement, using Phyrexian Scriptures and Revel in Riches, get the achievement The Holy Booty. Any game, get a Revel and win 1 round after a board wipe. So you'll use Phyrexian Scriptures or some other board wipe to destroy everything, and then get that at least up to 10 treasures, and then on your turn the next go round win the game. That's your achievement for this deck. For the trophy, we have a really tough one for you today. We're calling this trophy 44 Mana Well Spent. 1 player, 1 game. Mill him for 60, have him lose 60, and die to Infect. It's nothing worse than milling 60, losing 20, than dying for Infect. But it's going to cost you 44 mana, and I think it's probably impossible, but for any tryhards out there, Decimator Web, because this card is, it's decimating. Well, that's going to do it. It's the Haunt of Hightower. It's the Ravnica Allegiance promotional buy a box card. You can get this for about $28 to $36 on TCG Player. You're running up a optimized card in 2 packages depending on what the haunt cost and if you're going to get one or not. $35, something like that. You can check the deck list out as always, 1528429 on mtggoldfish.com. And that'll do it for this deck. I am going to go into a few upgrades, but the main deck is over, so the rest of these cards not in it. But just if you wanted to upgrade it, stick around because here we go. Upgrades. First of all, with the mana, and by mana I just mean the ramp primarily, stick a Soul Ring in there, a Crypt Gas, a Jet Medallion, and a Cage Sun, and then go ahead and get yourself an extra planar lens. You can see the prices here. That's if you want to upgrade the ramp package, this is what I would play. Next up, we have the removal suite. So Black Sun Zenith, Toxic Deluge, and Damnation are going to help you out with the removal. Just kind of edge it up there for you. You could see the prices here. I'm going to say you could see the prices here on every one of these. Okay. Upgrades for the discard advantage. Liliana's Caress, having everybody lose 2 whenever they discard a card. Waste Not, which gives you some big time utility with getting a 2/2, getting 2 mana, or having the ability to draw a card there. So just taking advantage of the discard. Can't pass this up. But like I said, $2 per card. So Torment Hellfire, which is just real good. You can repeat the process and have people add a permanence and add a life and add of cards in their hand in no time. And then of course Painful Quandary, which is that's a card. They're gonna have no cards in hand. They're gonna have no choice but to not play anything or to lose 5 life. You gotta put it in the deck. And then moving on to the utility, just Lightning Greaves, a little bit better than Mask of Avacyn. Darksteel Plate, making your guy indestructible, and then a Sanguinate just for some value there. Finally, moving on to the lands, Cabal Stronghold, Nykthos Shrine and Nyx, and Cabal Coffers. So Cabal Stronghold turns out only is like $1.80, so I probably should just put that in the deck anyways. But at the time that I looked the card up on a different site, it was over 2, and I just really didn't want to push it with that. But if you can get it for under $2, or even if you can, if you're doing upgrades, Cabal Stronghold definitely goes in there. Nykthos and pretty much any monocolored deck, and then Cabal Coffers, of course, because we're swamps and that's what it is. And then I would just say get snow-covered swamps. They work real well with the extra planar lens, so your other players don't tap their swamps for double. A lot of times people play Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, so everything's swamps, and then they're going to be doing that. Then you have an extra planar lands, and then everybody's tapping for double. That's never good. And then, of course, Westville Abbey, because it's just too good to pass up. I mean, in a monocolor deck, that colorless mana is not going to hurt you out. And then, at some point, you're just going to be able to flip this around and do a 9/7 flying life link indestructible haste. Can't beat that. Well, that officially wraps it up. Please hit subscribe, like, comment, share, hit the bell on the way out one more time. Just reminding you to do that. And if you stuck around this long, I'll see you. Good luck. Have fun.